Welcome back to another episode, everyone. I've got a really exciting guest for you guys today. For those of you just joining, we're E.N.G Media, and I've got Jorge with me, co founder and CEO of Zentrik. So, Jorge, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. I'm excited to dive into all of the awesome stuff that you guys are working on. I know you got a lot going on behind the scenes as well.
Yes, thank you for inviting me, Tyson. As you probably will share with the audience, I've been teaching AI for a few years and working around it a few more. And yes, we are working now on our own product to help compress the complete development lifecycle. We can talk about that more, but thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know you mentioned that you're helping, engineering teams and product managers around rolling out some of the things that they're working on. And so for the audience, would you mind maybe just giving us a little bit of a context and an understanding into what you guys are working on at Zentric?
Yes, of course. So as you know, we spend a lot of money worldwide building software every year, no? Approximately about 5 trillion.
Oh, wow.
And about one of those 5 trillion is completely directed into wrongly scoped work, rework, and other waste that today we find is normal in software development. Now, as AI development increases the output and velocity of our engineering teams, we find that the new bottleneck is no longer how many developers can you hire to actually do the work that you need to do to launch this to customers, but rather the planning and orchestration that it takes to actually define a problem to attack, do all of the steps to find how to best solve it, and then getting that to production in hands of users. No, and it is becoming common knowledge little by little that it is planning, product work, and distribution that are becoming the new bottlenecks, particularly in the post-agentic era. So what we're offering our customers is a way to start from ideas, insights from customers, whatever source material you have, and with guided interactions, get all the way to implementation plans that your specific team can take on, prototypes that reflect your existing product with a new cycle that does not require you to finish documenting something and resolving comments for 2 weeks before you can jump from an idea to a prototype that you can share with a client.
Yeah, 100%. I appreciate you sharing a little bit more into that background. And I think that that context is important because I previously was a part of a product team. I was a quality assurance engineer as part of a technology team. And after I graduated college, I transitioned into the marketing department. So I got to see what some of the misalignment was around the marketing team trying to work with the team of developers to launch new products and the project managers kind of running around. I believe you guys call it playing Jira janitor.
Herding, or yeah, we do. Being a Jira janitor. The industry usually calls it herding cats for the general work that they have to do.
Yeah, 100%. And just to give some context into what it means to be a Jira janitor, from what I could remember, a lot of the project managers on days like today, it's a Friday, like we had talked about before we started the podcast, everything kind of comes to light, everything that was supposed to be done, everything that had the due date onto it. And what I noticed is a lot of product managers that would come and work with our teams were almost chasing the statuses of different tickets and story points within Jira specifically, and it's almost like they were more concerned with marking a certain ticket as done or finished instead of it actually being truthfully finished. So everything that you guys are saying around actually being able to complete these projects and reduce some of the inefficiencies that are involved in the process of, technology and engineering managers deploying solutions is huge.
That is exactly it, Taylor, and you hit the nail on the head. Because this is endemic in the industry. It happens both in project and product management. It's just worse when it happens in product management. Because if you're working in projects that have a beginning and an end, you are in the end incentivized to finish those projects, have a
Right.
successful completion, but there is no, it's not an infinite game. When you're building a product, you're playing an infinite game. And so if you look at it as a project, you're gonna have wrong incentives that guide everything else that you do. You're not gonna take the best decisions for your users, particularly and definitely not for the business.
Yeah.
Supposed to stay there after that feature is completed and after the next one is as well. And so it is exactly that mentality that is a byproduct just of how things have been. The only way that we had to actually control and direct engineering effort was to have enough bodies thrown at the problem so that we could at least have everything that we needed to roll up the reporting to those that wanted to have the insight and control over how we're delivering, which in the end added in itself a big overhead not only on cost, but also on the time that your engineers end up spending providing the reporting, those updates, reviewing those PRDs, etc. No? So the waste is everywhere, from product managers to executives to particularly the effort of engineering.
100%. And I remember being in some of those weekly and biweekly sprints, and the amount of time that was spent on planning, it almost seems like was more than was spent on execution specifically. And so I know that with Zentrik, you guys are reducing like the overall planning cycle by over 90%, kind of helping companies take an idea to a sprint in 5 minutes. I think that that's huge. And I know you guys are leveraging AI, and we're going to get into it specifically, but could we maybe speak about some of the team members that you're working. I know you're the co-founder of your company. It sounds like you have a lot of talented folks that you are working with. Could you maybe shed some light on how your co-founder and some folks that are on your team are helping drive Zentrik's mission forward?
Pues it's actually a much smaller team than you would think, looking at the product, looking at our pipeline, looking at our paying customers. The team for the most of the last year, which is the history of the company, has been alive for 13 months. It has been my co-founder and I, and we recently added a third person that has been helping us with go-to-market particularly, and a little bit more on the product management, because we are ardent believers on the value of it. But it's been mostly just us two. We're both engineers, and we're both former leaders on AI on different areas, particularly on his side on product and on my side on services. And so we've brought this together because I know how to take AI to companies, and he knows really how to build it. I do have my experience building, and so for the first 6 months, for example, that we weren't going to market, we were just heads down, putting the product together, showing it to users, iterating. And that's the nice thing also having these new tools. We've been so AI native that we were using Cursor before they had a payment gateway
Wow.
already for like 15 months,
Oh,
14
nice.
months. And although, pricing keeps changing, the good thing is that we've been able to benefit from that velocity increase since before it was a commonplace in the market as well. So in between two people, we have a platform that is serving more clients than employees
Wow.
today. And it's really the key of just having a very good core team, having the experience working with all of these tools and understanding how they work so that
Yeah.
you can get the most out of them.
100%. And I think it's awesome to hear how you and your co-founder have had so much early success. I think that it almost sounds like you guys put together the team of the Avengers. Like, you have over a decade of experience bringing AI solutions to the market, and then your business partner has the product experience to really understand how it kind of plugs into these teams. And I think that hybrid-led engineering and product teams are really the way to the future. I think the teams that don't learn how to leverage AI to empower themselves are gonna be the ones that kind of fall behind. And so, I probably don't understand the complexity of the workflows that you guys are getting yourselves into, but could you maybe shed some light into how you're helping product managers and engineering managers leverage AI to save 90% of time on planning, for example?
Person, it's not that complicated. Let's do a demo for longer another time, and I'll show you hands-on. But just so that you have the general image, how one of our main clients uses it is to drop in the notes of the meetings that they have talking about a new feature, roadmap,
Wow.
whatever it is. They drop the notes. The system extracts what are the possible ideas and insights from that meeting, organizes those as ideas. From there, you can generate opportunities just quickly with AI, or even if you want to edit anything, you have the same ability to do so as you would in normal product management. With a couple more questions that the system will ask you, you will end up with a small product brief that you can start prototyping on. Now,
Wow.
you may be a lovable person because you want to get to functional prototypes quick. And so you have there a system that will generate prompts specifically for lovable. One click, generate the prompt, link it back to the project. Next time that an engineer comes to take a look at your idea that you've processed and generated from tons of feedback, they don't just see a wall of document, a PRD in a Google Doc. See a small summary, which is what matters to them. They see a prototype that they can play with, and they can directly talk to the project, talk to the initiative. Why are we doing this? Could we actually cut the database work and still deliver on the promise? Yes, okay, let's remove these tasks. And in 20 minutes from the moment of dropping the conversation to that moment, we have tasks updated in Jira, a roadmap that reflects possible reality.
Nice.
going out to stakeholders of what has been added for the thing from the things that they were following. I imagine you're in sales and you're really interested on this set of features, or particularly you want to know about everything that solves these problems that your customers, your direct clients have told you about. No, you can just set up those criteria, and whenever something changes on the roadmap, either something is delayed or accelerated or something is released that affects that problem space. Hey, you have an account, Microsoft, that could benefit from knowing about our new context management feature. Here you have the link that you can send them and a little like message with a good angle based on the
Oh,
insight that
wow.
you provided 2 months ago. And then you can close the loop from customer insights, from telemetry, even all the way to code eventually, which is where we want to go.
Oh,
So
wow.
that every time that we generate a task, is basically evaluated for automation. The prompts are generated, and we launch a third-party agent that actually executes on the code, creates a virtual machine, a branch for your developers to just test, evaluate, and push.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I appreciate you sharing kind of how that works. I think that it's simple, but one of the questions that I had for you was some of these product and engineering teams that you guys are speaking
hmm
with, is there any hesitancy around them adopting AI into their processes? Like, is there any misconceptions that you see some of these teams having that maybe we
hmm
can address on this podcast here?
There are multiple, depends on the angle, because we particularly work on the intersection of product and engineering. We depends on particularly who's the champion in an organization for us. We often get the how do you say it, the negative feedback, let's say, from the other side, particularly, no? Because it is when they bring it internally to the organization, the product manager saying like, "Oh, look at this tool that I found to actually help me, end up even with tasks." Then engineering is a little defensive, like, "Wait, it cannot do the tasks like we do them, no?" If
Right.
it's engineering saying like, "Hey, it generates the prompt for so that you can prototype," it's like, "Oh, but it doesn't have my style, no?" Or so it's different rejections or different misconceptions. The main work that we are doing and that we will continue to have to do is make sure that we remove every barrier. No, the most common one that applies more at the market level is AI fear or AI policies in organizations. So we are talking with enterprises, but we are aware that we're probably not going to be able to serve them until we have completed certain steps. That includes SOC certification, small features like SSOs, and other ways to authenticate their users and manage their permissions, etc. No? And one of the things that we think is going to be key for serving enterprises in the post-agent era is the ability to offer private model deployments so
Mhm.
that you can manage it for them, but they basically just decide to use their own models. You connect to their Google Cloud, you do your own fine-tunings, you do the same pipeline that you have for the models that you would otherwise self-host or use a third party, but in their cloud so that they don't have any privacy concerns. And it's it's work because you need to then adapt to the Google Cloud for Gemini and Anthropic, or Bedrock for Anthropic and AWS and Amazon's models, Azure for OpenAI, and etc. No?
Yeah.
So it's an engineering lift to do that well to serve the enterprise, but we know what the roadmap is in that sense. And for the other ones, just to talk about those quickly, the engineering and the product ones. The engineering ones were the first ones that we encountered, give it like 6 months ago. And our plan was always, and we have executed on it today, that the way that we work with companies is that we first learn everything we can about them. It starts from onboarding, but the key thing happens when you ingest your Jira. It does two things. It ingests the backlog, the things that you haven't worked on yet, to create possible initiatives to work on. But it also ingests what you define, but generally everything that you've worked on in the past. That for some of our clients has meant more than like 360,000 Jira tickets, and it's from that information that we get who is working on your team, what are their roles, what are their specific skills, where do they excel, where is their time multiplied, where do they take slower to do things, where does usually rework happen, the specific architecture, the stack, how the features connect, and even references to resources, libraries, etc. Paying clients, we connect as well to GitHub, Confluence,
Nice.
and other Notion since today as well. And we will announce that on Monday. So
Nice.
probably by the time that this is out, that will already be available for anybody listening.
Nice.
And right now, the work is just to keep improving, closing in the cycle, tightening the loop with prototyping, ensuring that those are useful for generating the final code. But the rest of what I mentioned is already there. It's already
Yeah.
there and available.
Very interesting. I appreciate you sharing some insights. So it sounds like some of the pushback you guys are getting are from the other team that you're kind of not talking to. So if you're talking to product managers and the product team, the engineering team gets a little bit defensive into thinking the AI is just going to fully take over and not understand, I guess, what their role is, and then vice versa
Hmm.
for the engineering teams. When you guys are working with them, product teams feel like these certain things are kind of going to be missed. But what you're saying is that you guys actually integrate with their Jira. You guys actually learn as much as you can about their teams and about their companies before you actually start working with them. So that way, by the time you guys deploy your AI solutions, there's already a thorough understanding of kind of what their business is doing, and nothing is really missed throughout that process. Is that essentially how you guys
Yeah, I would
work?
say you even put it better than me, but that is a perfect two-pronged answer. First is that we, for engineering, we do get the context for everything they worked on, and that is how we help them. And that for product manager, we get the context of their strategy, their objectives,
I
their
love that.
metrics, so that that also works for them. But the second side, and that probably I didn't mention well, but you reminded me, is the mission of Centric and why we're building what we have and where we're going is to actually create a future where humans are dedicated to judgment and machines to execution,
Mm,
where we actually dedicate ourselves to the decisions that matter and not the updates that don't. The important mode, the most defensible thing that you can build today is the best human AI interaction for a given task. And that is specifically where we're building the orchestrator that helps you actually take the best problems into the best solutions and take those to market
yeah,
and
1000%.
shorten that cycle to possibly weeks, at one point days. I envision getting to evolutionary products where you have maybe at the same time 200 different versions in production, different user segments being served for their specific need,
Yeah.
features being mixed as they worked or they don't, some other branches dying, and you basically managing the intent, the general direction, proving those things that may be a little bit too bold, but those that have high confidence are basically working in general in autopilot, with you putting the guardrails.
Wow. I love that. And one theme that I noticed from when we speak to folks that are working with product and engineering teams on our podcast is that they don't want to, or I guess they seek to solve the problems that are involved in the actual process for some of these teams before they seek to apply AI to it. Cause it's almost like you're shining a light on the processes that they're running currently. So I'm sure as you're integrating with their Jira, with their Confluence, or with their Notion documents, you probably surface a lot of, I guess, fundamental problems with the way that they're kind of running their product management and their teams that they kind of have to fix along with working with you guys, which ultimately gives them that better result. Do you guys run into that in some of the
All the
projects you're
time,
working
all
on?
the time. There are multiple versions of this. There are problems that people is aware of, and it's just like yes, but there is just some reason that this is like this. No, there are those that they're not aware of, and like it's very nice to discover. Oh, we do really like take always 50% extra time on mobile QA than we estimate. Yeah, that's nice to know. We didn't have it because we didn't have the data aggregated. Those are always very nice to share with customers. The first ones are always complicated because they're usually political or there's some other reason, either ineffable or just prehistoric in that sense that like predates the current stakeholders. So those are just difficult to solve per se. But it is good to shine a light. It's just that you have to do it somewhat carefully as a provider. We help the companies that we work with, particularly at this stage, to improve their full product process. And in fact, we incite companies to rethink it from the top to the bottom, particularly to remove process when you can, and basically have a general operandus model, but other than that, empowering your team members to be like cross the borders between roles, no? And so designers can think a bit more about the business objectives so that engineers can think about what is going to be the product objectives that like we can maximize if we deliver on this feature this way or that other, no? So product managers can both prototype and consider the experience and how to generate delight on the products that they create at a functional level, not just as add-ons on top.
100%. Yeah, I love your guys' overall approach. I think as hybrid teams come into play and, product teams and engineering teams continue to leverage AI, it's almost like it's not about who ships faster, it's about who understands, like, what's actually important to ship and really what matters, and it seems like through not only your guys' AI, but also a lot of the consulting and work that you do with the teams helps kind of uncover that. And one thing that really sticks out to me with Zentrik is you guys have interviewed over like 25 plus product managers before you actually
More, I think north of now,
oh, 300.
more than 300.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, 200 in the first 6 months. Is that then we had to work on other things too. But yeah, we continue to interview basically every week. At least we have a couple more. Both me and my co-founder. It's
Wow.
incredibly important for us to be very well in touch with the community as well as learn from what everybody is doing because of this explosion of possibilities. Everybody's also using tools in a different way. So research right now on the street, let's say, like getting out of the building, as it's called, is very more important than ever. Because there's no other way to get news. By the time you get them in a blog, it's going to be too late as well.
Yeah. 100%. And you guys aren't just over there building your AI kind of siloed in a corner. You're out there talking to folks in the industry. You're finding out what's working. And that's kind of why we started the podcast as well. So that way we could be on the front lines and kind of understand what's truthfully going on instead of just coming up with intuitive ideas in our head. And do you think when it comes to getting results for Zentrik's clients, is that your key differentiator, the insights that you've collected through these interviews, would you say? Or what, I guess, is your main differentiator, maybe than some similar competitors that are out there in the market?
The similarities are not very deep. We particularly have rethought the product development lifecycle so that you can actually move from A to B, so from idea to code, in the shortest time possible. That means that requirements exist, but they are a tool, not an end of a phase. No?
Gotcha.
So that you can jump between idea, product, and back to requirements in a new way of working and thinking. Now, the main differentiator is that the majority of other tools that will help you do product management are places where you go do work. It's a place where you transform a set of insights into sorted tables, where you chase updates and add comments. It's a place where you do work, a new to-do list. The main difference is that Centric is there to solve your to-do list, to start executing it before it even asks you to do anything so that you have a collaborator, so that you have a system that is pulling you in when needed, and that you don't have the drudge that it takes to actually translate requirements into tasks, break it down in epics, translate 20 different calls into a document for insights, circulate this to 20 different stakeholders, manage a roadmap. When one date slips, now you have to move 300 boxes. All of that should be done for you. That's not
Oh,
the
wow.
important work of a product manager is actually doing discovery, learning what people need, understanding what are the possibilities of how this could be solved, and then iterate, and build with your team rather than being locked into a Google Doc and a set of Jira tickets.
100%. Yeah. No, I love that. You guys really have reinvented the processes for how some of these teams are operating. And that kind of leads me to my next question, which is through some of the research you guys have done through speaking with, like you said, upwards of 300 product managers up to this point, are there any
Mhm.
new initiatives or anything new that you're rolling out with your technology that the market has been asking for, or anything maybe in the next 6 to 12 months that your current customers can be on the lookout for?
Yeah, well, by December, we would have closed the loop completely for the first time. We'll be doing this
Nice.
only with some of our beta customers,
Yeah.
but that means that we will be listening for new reviews on your product, understanding where those reviews come from, pass them through our whole system autonomously so that opportunities are identified, the best solutions are defined and weighted against each other. And a couple hours after the review has been posted in the App Store,
Mhm.
you have a new version
Oh,
ready
wow.
that applies the best possible solution for that feedback that still respects your product intent, that maximizes the impact on your OKRs, and that if there's anything that your engineering team needs to do, is specifically listed, tasks are created, and they just need to go in, review the couple of things, and ship it.
Wow. That's super exciting. I know I'm definitely gonna be checking out all the stuff that you guys are gonna be rolling out over the next year. Hopefully, I'll start to see some more content come out from like and maybe, like you said, you could take me through the demo just so that way we can uncover some of those insights, maybe even bring you back on the podcast as well. But do you guys at Zentric have any specific goals, I guess, over the next 6 months when it comes to product or just, in the business in general? Like, I know it's an exciting time. You guys I believe are raising capital at this point, but are there any, specific goals? And I'd love to know really what your vision is for the company, over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I would start with that because I do think it's better to start with the big picture. As a Spanish writer said, from the elephant to the needle, in that I want to create the ability for users to alter the experiences that they have in products. I want to build a future where, because you use LinkedIn and you use it in this way, you've tried to click in certain areas because of the telemetry of your usage of the product and a couple of messages that you've given on feedback, aggregated with other millions of users, you are given an experience of LinkedIn that maybe only another few thousand share. But because it's affordable to actually build software at the scale and create varying versions that pull on the same core, you can actually end up having experience on LinkedIn that you've crafted for yourself, little by little, that have also benefited from what others have decided to do on there. And somebody maybe has created a much better messaging experience. So you start using that one. And then you're improving a little bit because you want to have labels and a way to prioritize messages, no? And then somebody starts using that as well because they express that need. And so product owners, in the sense of the companies that own those products, can set the directions that they want products to go, guardrails and the limits that they want to allow their users to personalize the service. But really, software will become much more ephemeral. I do think that products and SaaS will still exist because they will provide the core, the trust, the extra quality that allows you to get more value out of that product. No, but I do think that they will need to provide this flexibility so that users really can start to interact with software in a way that we are yet to see, but where you build what you need basically by just interacting and showing your needs.
Yeah, 100%. It's almost like you envision a future where there's more creativity into what some of these product and engineering teams are gonna have the capability to do that, like you said, we haven't really seen before. And so, kinda with that in mind, another question that I always love to ask on the podcast is, and I kinda get a different answer every time I ask it, but let's just say that you could hypothetically wave a magic wand and you could solve one thing in the business right now related to maybe like a bottleneck that's in the way of your overall bigger picture vision. Do you know maybe what that one thing would be?
Yes, hiring in particular is something that is relatively slow. The lag time between you deciding to hire for a position and you getting the perfect person for that role is huge. No, so that from a personal perspective, this is what I would want to wave a magic wand and have now the ideal team, or even be able to convince those people that I know would already be ideal, but are already in very cushy jobs in fun,
Yeah,
for example, no? But that is at a very, personal, tactical level, particularly now that we started to raise and started to subscribe for our first safe round.
nice.
Now I need to move on hiring very quickly. I know that it's going to take at least about 2 months to get to the level that we need to be then. But in terms of the product and the industry of product management, I really wish that we had a good way to convey both outcomes and timelines in one easy, dynamic, interactive way for everybody involved in the process. And this is something that we keep working on and we keep iterating on what will be the best way to do these interfaces. And it's actually how we arrived originally at the idea of this sprawling, multiplying, evolving software, because we're going to test it with this area in particular. We want everybody to be able to see the roadmap however they want, no?
Gotcha.
Um, because the main thing that we got is that 95% of product people that we talk to, they don't like to do roadmaps with dates, but they are asked for roadmaps with dates.
All right.
And that's a conundrum in the industry. I do think there's a lot of clever solutions, from radial maps that are closer to the objective there in the center, that have orientative dates. We have our own Kanban style solution. There's the now, next, later. There's a lot of versions, but none of them really encapsulates what every stakeholder in your organization or outside needs. And so I do think that the ideal would be that roadmaps become this living, just information report that you can have a level of zoom as desired. You just want to see the general areas that have been worked on. Great. You want to ask for more details, either, click here or ask for whatever you want. Why are we doing this? We do have the traceability of when this was decided and the insights that it comes from. So here you have the approximate accounts, net new accounts that this can enable. That would be the thing that I will wave a magic wand. If I could decide what is the best way to create roadmaps that everybody in the organization can align under.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think it's tough, and I love that that's something you guys are really focused on and iterating on as well. I think when it comes to priorities and it comes to specific timelines, it's always hard for product and engineering teams to kind of prioritize and make sure that everything important gets done when it's almost like new priorities are always kind of jumping in front of other ones that might, I guess, aren't 100% complete
Yeah.
overall.
And a lot of that happens because of a lack of memory organizationally. So, one salesperson found this out from a client 2 weeks ago. That's why it's in the roadmap today. And yesterday, customer success found out another thing and they want to accelerate it. And why is this other thing in the roadmap from 2 weeks ago? It's like, oh, somebody has to remember that somebody talked to somebody. Whilst if you can actually point and actually see both opinions in a minute, side by side, with weighted impacts on the different areas that you care about, there you have it. Okay, make the decision. Is it in? Is it out? Do you want to take something else out? Quickly ask. What other things can we take out that are not very impactful if we want to fix this bug, this sprint? This, or this. What will be the impact on the roadmap? 2 weeks. Okay, all right. Change the thing.
Boom. Yeah.
Done. And of course, that's the start. And then there's a lot of complexity on this. What executives want to know, what customers want to know, and what you want to let customers know. So it is a deeper well in that sense, but one that we're not afraid to tackle. It's just one that I wish we had the final solution already.
Yeah, 100%. I know you guys are well on your way to solving some of the issues that we talked about on this podcast, but if there's anybody that has questions for you, Jorge, or they want to find out more about Zentrik outside of your company's website, would you say that LinkedIn is the best social media platform for the audience to go and connect?
Yes, it is. I live in LinkedIn for the last few months between outreach and preparation for investment now. That's basically my default. Also, for those that want to provide feedback, we do have a channel available for those individual product managers, even
Oh,
that
well,
want to just play around with a version of the tool. The only thing we ask is to come into our Slack channel and give feedback.
nice.
Because again, there's no better way than build and with the collaboration of the community.
100%. And I could see from a project manager's and product manager as well, from their perspective, the insights that they could get from being a part of that community will be really valuable for them to kind of take it and apply to their day to day. Would you mind sharing with me the Slack link so that way I can go ahead and add it to the description of this video along with your guys' socials and all of that good
Will
stuff?
do. That and LinkedIn. And of course, if somebody's interested in trying it out, reach out to me directly. I will also add my email is jorge@Zentrik.
Awesome. I'll make sure that I include it in there as well. But Jorge, before we wrap up here, what is maybe one last thought that you want to leave the audience with, that you want to leave the industry that you're serving with in regards to how they think about Zentrik and the problems that you guys are looking to solve?
Well, there is a lot that you will hear about what AI can impact our work and our life. But I do think that the best way to create the future that we want, is to actually drive into that future with optimism. And I do think that the best thing I can impart onto others is this feeling and this curiosity for building. Just nothing like this in the past, where somebody without 8 years of learning, 8 years of working and experience could actually start a small business, a small idea, put it in the hands of people like we have the chance of today. So, of course, we're building Centric to allow companies to do this at scale. But for every individual listening, this is an incredibly fascinating time to be alive. I would encourage you carve out time on your day. I know that when you have a full-time job that is separated from these things is difficult. But I have not felt ever as empowered by software until I started actually building with the help of AI. Particularly these tools today, Lovable, Magic Patterns, Bolt, Cursor, if you're brave enough to go into an IDE, are very satisfying to use. So it easily satisfies the subscription, $20 for something that is both an opportunity to learn, a chance for creating a business, and also fun. Build something that you will just enjoy having for yourself. Solve a little problem that you have, then scale it.
100%. I
Build a
couldn't have
game.
said it better myself. I mean, I love that. So it's about staying curious, it's about continuing to learn, and then just staying optimistic about the future and how you can best leverage AI to maybe solve your problems today and solve somebody else's tomorrow. So I love that advice for the audience as well. But no, Jorge, I just wanted to tell you thank you so much again for coming on our podcast and for sharing your insights and really just for your time today as well.
Of course, my pleasure, Tyson. I hope you
Absolutely.
have a great rest of your day, and we'll be back anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's the first week of October. You guys are going to be rolling out some really exciting things next week. We'll make sure we get this podcast episode out. But if anybody has any questions for Jorge or myself, feel free to comment on this video if you see it on YouTube or if you see it on LinkedIn as well. And really, other than that, guys, we will catch you in the next video.